Hey there, nerds. I like video games. Sometimes I even play them, like I did in 2022. And now, believe it or not, there's even more video games coming out in 2023. It's crazy, I know, but it's real, trust me. So, as the title suggested, I'm going to go over the games in 2023 that I'm looking forward to the most. Alright, so this is kind of a given. Now, admittedly, Breath of the Wild actually didn't grab me as much as most people did, but even still, I'm still very interested in how the sequel is gonna elevate and change the formula of the game, perhaps. At least I'm assuming it's going to, because obviously the game's taken so long to come out at this point that I'm kind of just curious, like, why it's been taking so long, considering it seems like it's going to be reusing a lot of assets and ideas. So, but the fact that's taken so long regardless makes me wonder. It's like, well, maybe they are changing a lot. Maybe it is going to be fairly different in a lot of ways. I don't know. So at this point, I'm kind of looking forward to it just to see, like, what kind of game it's going to be. How different is it going to be from the first Breath of the Wild? Is it going to be that different? I don't know. Worst case, it's going to be very similar to Breath of the Wild, and it'll still be a good game. So, I mean, either way, I'm still gonna play it. It's just, I'm just curious, what are they changing? How's it gonna turn out? And that's why I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so I admit this game is mostly on the list due to how goddamn amazing the art style is. Just the way it blends 2D pixel art and 3D graphics is just mind-blowing, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. With that said, I have no idea if the gameplay itself will be good. From what I can tell, it looks like a fairly slow-paced, methodical action combat system of sorts, with some platforming elements. But I mean, even if the gameplay turns out to be just mediocre, the game's story, setting, and art may very well be enough to carry it into glory regardless. I'm definitely curious to see what kind of game Replaced will turn out to be. I have high hopes. There's a few genres of games that will almost always automatically get me interested in a game quickly. First, Castlevania-likes. Second, Metroidvanias. Third, Souls-likes. And God-tier pixel art is also nearly always a good way to rope me in. The Last Faith, at least on the surface, appears to be all or most of those things I just listed. So it's very likely I'm going to love this game. The dark atmosphere and aesthetic, the combat looks simple but skill-based and satisfying, the pixel art looks phenomenal. I don't know, I have pretty high hopes that this game is going to be a banger. I loved Blasphemous, for example, and this game gives me similar vibes of greatness. Okay, so I know there's been a bit of a theme going on here, but I swear that the art isn't the only reason I'm interested in games. With that said, oh my goodness, this game is so pretty. Sea of Stars has a lot of other things going for it too. It's made by the dev team that made The Messenger, which was an absolutely amazing game, by the way. And the writing of that game was very good, so I'm not too worried about the quality of the story for Sea of Stars. And also, they got the same person who did the Xenoblade soundtrack. It's clearly inspired by classic RPGs like Chrono Trigger. This game has such incredible potential. I will say I really hope the game has difficulty options of some sort, because I really like challenging my RPGs, but even so, this game looks like it's going to be amazing. I'm a sucker for quality Souls-like games, but honestly, it's not too often we get 3D Souls-like games that look exceptionally good in their quality. Liza P definitely looks the part, and the setting of this game is so cool. I mean, you get to play as Pinocchio in this old, kind of dark, gothic Victorian setting. You're fighting all sorts of crazy mechs and enemies. The bosses just look insane. This game just nailed it in the aesthetic department, and that's really what's selling it for me. On top of that, it has some unique gameplay systems to help differentiate itself from other Souls-like games, so the game really does have a lot of potential, and I'm looking forward to see what it brings to the table. Now, this game was quite an unexpected reveal. I'm no Warhammer fan, but it was around 11 years ago, I think, when Total Biscuit released the video, WTF is Warhammer 40k Space Marine. And I still remember how he was surprised at how good and satisfying it wound up being, considering it was just a random Warhammer third-person action game. And so, after watching that, I bought it, I played it, and it was surprisingly really, really good. It's visceral, violent, actually challenging, and was just the perfect, just the perfect game for relieving stress. I never knew I needed a sequel to this game, but now that I know it exists, I am very eager to play this. Alright, so, come on. It's Pikmin. I like Pikmin. You like Pikmin. We all like Pikmin. And the fact that Pikmin 4 is finally a real thing, and it's confirmed not to be some dream concocted by a blue monster, is very pleasing to hear. I played so much Pikmin 2 back in the day, and while I admittedly wasn't as huge of a fan as Pikmin 3 in comparison to 2, I still recognize that it was a great game in its own right, and I am absolutely going to be playing Pikmin 4 on release. And I am definitely going to be avoiding any trailers for it because I want to go into this game blind. The first Blasphemous game was a masterpiece, and possibly the best 2D Souls-like Metroidvania ever. It hit in every department conceivable, and I played through the game 3 times, which is very rare for me to do with any game these days. The game was a beautiful mix of Souls-like 2D gameplay, god-tier pixel art, great and diverse level design, and lore with religious inspiration, and it's just so fresh. There's no game quite like it. The free DLC also added the best bosses in the game, and was just in general fantastic new content. So yeah, the fact that the developers are making a sequel greatly pleases me, and I have no doubt that they will make it amazing, and possibly even better with what they've learned from the first game. Now I say all this, but there's not actually any gameplay to show Blasphemous 2 yet, so hopefully it's still coming out in 2023. Supposedly it is. I'm guessing they're just waiting for the right time they feel it's appropriate to show, but I want it. I want it! Continuing on my unplanned theme of Souls-likes and sequels, Remnant 2. I'm not sure if the first game, Remnant from the Ashes, counts as a hidden gem or not, but I never hear anyone talk about it, which is a shame since it's one of the best third-person shooters and one of the best Souls-likes I've ever played. Doing both of those subgenres and blending them into a single game and making it work, that's impressive. On top of that, Remnant had some of the best implementation of co-op there's ever been in a Souls-like. The game is built with co-op in mind, and going through the game with my brother on the hardest difficulty was a great experience. Sure, it might have been maddening at times, but oh boy was it satisfying. The game had a fantastic variety of weapons and powers to choose from. It's very hard on the higher difficulties, but rarely felt outright unfair, which is a good thing. And it has some of the best Souls-like bosses, or maybe even bosses in general, that I've ever fought, especially with the DLC. I was actually wondering for a while what the devs were planning on doing next, and I am very pleasantly surprised that it's a sequel to Remnant. I am really eager to see what they do with Remnant 2, and how it turns out. I absolutely adored the first Octopath Traveler game. Triangle Strategy was also absolutely incredible, and a game I would consider a masterpiece. These devs are amazing at what they do. In particular, I think they make some of the absolute best medieval fantasy worlds, plots, and characters. I was so incredibly engrossed and immersed in both Octopath and Triangle Strategy that at this point I'll play anything from these developers just because I'm confident that they'll deliver an outstanding world and characters. Top that off with some of the best soundtracks I have ever heard in gaming, as well as some of the most beautiful pixel art out there. It's crazy just how pretty and nice those two games are. Funnily enough, the worst part about the original Octopath Traveler was probably the difficulty curve being off, since it was only really hard at the very end of the game, and also the pacing wasn't that great. I hope that's improved upon for the sequel, but even so, Octopath Traveler 2, it's a game I know I'm going to love. These developers have earned my trust and support, and that's why it's the game I'm looking forward to the most in 2023. Now, with all of that said, there are still some other games I'm looking forward to, of course. They're just not games that I could really include in my top 10, just barely, but there's still plenty to look forward to aside from the games I listed, so let's go over a few honorable mentions. Nina the Hollower. It's a classic Zelda-inspired game made by the people who made Shovel Knight. I don't think I really need to say more, but I mean, it just looks charming as hell, and I have absolutely zero doubts that it is gonna be very good. Pepper Grinder. So this is actually a little indie game that I remember seeing get like little update posts on Twitter years upon years ago. Since then I've stopped using Twitter, so when I came across this game again, it was a pleasant surprise to see it's almost fully completed now after all this time. I completely forgot about it, and now look, it looks so good and cute. It's just kind of wholesome to see like all this progress that happened. The game itself also just looks cool. It's a very unique concept utilizing momentum while digging through dirt that can make for a bunch of really creative gameplay scenarios, and it just looks neat. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. The Lethal League devs are making a game inspired by Jet Set Radio. I honestly never played that game back in the day, but this is still a game that just oozes style, and I'm definitely keeping an eye on it to see how it turns out. A Frog's Tale. It's a rhythm-based Mario & Luigi / Paper Mario combat-inspired game with frogs and cute pixel art. I don't think I need to say anything else. Nine Souls. Absolutely gorgeous hand-drawn art style, really satisfying skill-based looking combat system. You get to play as a cat. To quote a YouTube comment I saw, I never knew I needed Taoist cyberpunk in my gaming library until now. The Plucky Squire. This game just looks cute and charming as heck. It's so colorful and cute, and the premise is just so wonderful and lovely realized. It's just nice. It's just so nice, and I hope it turns out good. I'm curious to see how far they take the premise. Witchfire. It's a dark fantasy first-person shooter where you fight otherworldly horrors and all manner of demons and crazy things. The aesthetic is just really cool. The guns look nice. The entire theme is just very well done. Honestly, this game probably would have made it in my top 10, but then I found out it's a roguelite, and I just typically prefer my first-person shooters to be, handcrafted campaign experiences as opposed to a roguelite. But, it very well still might be very good. Maybe it'll surprise me. Atomic Heart. It's a post-apocalyptic setting where you're shooting all manner of things from robots to creepier robots to evil blood monster things. The game's setting is just crazy and really cool. It has a lot of mystery behind it, and I actually completely forgot it's coming out pretty soon. It's very hard to say if this game will be good or not until it actually comes out. I think a lot of it hinges on how good the launch will be because it looks very ambitious, but I'm definitely interested to see how it turns out. Anyways, I think that's it. It's very possible I might have forgotten some game, but even so, that's a lot of games to look forward to. It's great to see that even though the gaming space has gotten worse in some ways, or I guess in a lot of ways, there's still a lot of amazing games to look forward to. And yeah, I do tend to like video games, so it's good to see that there's some good ones. There's some good ones. There's quite a lot of good ones actually. I'm looking forward to them. Anyways, that's it. Have a happy 2023, and I'll see you guys next time, whenever that is. Yay.